Hello, my name is Raymond Karchevsky, and this is coming to you from my home here in Cave Junction, Oregon. The subject for tonight is the nature of freedom and the nature of protest. It arises from a communication made to the moderator of the Oregon Shout Forum on the Internet. In it I say that I had just checked my mail today and discovered your message regarding your subject of the rescindment of the Oregon driver's license. The key to the solution to yours and most people who are experiencing problems with the system is changing yours and their present legal status. As long as the system considers you to be a subject to the 14th Amendment corporate system and see you as a subject to the corporate government through your consent or contract, they have the upper hand in dealing with protesting subjects, and no amount of argument via court appearances, public meetings, etc., is going to make a difference. Legally, you are still held to be a surety for the debts of the juristic person called the defendant, a strawman, over whom they hold supreme claim. We live in a world of commerce, and one is either considered a creditor or a debtor. In such relationship, the corporation, the government, is the creditor, the masters, and the unaware subjects are the debtor, the slave. But, James, it is all an illusion. The satanic psychological conditioning of the American people is overwhelming, yet it must be overcome if we are to restore ourselves to our God-given state of sovereignty. I say restore because I perceive that for most people, standing alone, or even with a handful of supporters in opposition to the system, are seen as minor brush fires to be put out by the enforcers and the courts, and the protesters themselves have lost before they even began. Their emotional collectiveness is, for the most part, a lost cause. In the meantime, people get hurt, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Their spirits are demoralized, and finally they give up, perhaps with some conciliatory gesture on the part of the system, but usually such gestures consist of minor change. Such is the nature of the flaw of intellect which binds protesting slaves. Its limitedness of human potential is greater than the physical chains which bind slaves to their imprisoned existence. The Koenig case is a good example. Those supporting Richard are lost in their intellect, playing by the system's rules, and they are goaded on by satanic temptations of the intellect, trying to outlawyer the lawyers. Lawyers that have thrown out the bait, and they, the reactors, bite. To all concerned, it is a game, and usually a losing game for the amateur public facing the professional lawyers. That is the curse of intellectual pride, one of Satan's favorite ploys in place to control opposition. In the meantime, while the courts play their postponement, misdirection, and sidestepping game, wearing petitioners out, Richard remains in custody, assuming, still under forced medication, thereby dulling his senses, obliterating any opportunity for him to successfully defend himself. When the system owns you, and they do presently for all 14th Amendment citizens and subjects of the corporation, they can do anything they damn well please, especially if you are in prison or confined to a mental hospital. You are alone, and you realize it. You have no rights. You are an object to them, a piece of government-owned property to them, an object. You are no longer even seen as a natural man. Richard's and his supporters' mistake was their own societally conditioned ego pitted against the hired guns of the system, the lawyers and judges. You can see how that is going. My tactics were opposite of those used by everyone else. I knew that I was no man's slave, and I held to that, even though I was coercively pulled along into 2 court trials. I had done my paperwork to change my status before I was arrested. The first words uttered from my mouth in the first to the last appearance, throughout some 20-plus pre-trial hearings and 2 trials, was the challenge for the fictional court to prove jurisdiction over me, the living, breathing, flesh and blood, sentient natural man. I held to that position throughout my entire ordeal, which has gone on for years, and goes on to this very day. My stance was that I would either walk out of jail a free man, or be carried out as a corpse. I placed myself in God's hands, and let go, accepting whatever my fate was to be. It was that state of consciousness which beat the satanic system of the Oregon courts and Josephine County. Once inside, I refused their attempts to release me conditionally. That, along with the hunger strikes, the pressure was put on them, as they were in the unfortunate position of having to manipulate public perception in any action taken by them, to get out from under their rapidly exposed, unlawful position. When they saw they could not break my resolve, they knew it was over for them. That is why they released me, dropping me off at the curb of the emergency room of 3 Rivers Hospital, when the jail nurse proclaimed that I was near death. I didn't play their game. I held to my position, and they could not shake me from it. I was in God's hands, and whatever outcome, life or death, I had accepted. That is why I am a free man today, while others playing the sovereign game are still in prison. It is difficult to reach others with such deep understanding of self and its relationship to true freedom, because intellectual conditioning does not allow for anything expressed but that of the most superficial aspects of consciousness. Hence, the difference is noticeable and explained away as something abnormal to human consciousness. The fact is that it is not normal, but it is the true substance of any God-directed man or woman. It is not found in the Satanic Ruled believer, or in the self-realized God-directed man or woman. James, I am posting this publicly, rather than keep it a private response to your private communication, because it is not an individual problem. It doesn't apply to you and me, but it applies to all. It goes to the heart of where freedom lies within the consciousness of civilized mankind. It always has been that way, and it shall always be so. Everyone is primed to react to tyranny. That is the Satanic way. Withdrawal of support, rescindment of consent, and contract with the Satanic system through boycott, boycott, boycott is the spiritual way, the non-violent way. You can see which direction the worldly conditioned man and woman has taken. It will not only lead to the destruction of this constitutional republic, it will lead to the destruction of many men and women in the not-too-distant future. That is the Satanic hold the intellect has upon civilized society. I am not part of that Satanic system, and that is why I am free.